your smile. Now the sunshine brings the light. Fill me out with a flame. I will let you in this game. Take me out when I'm down. 'Cause with you I'm safe and sound. 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 I'm safe and
Welcome back, everybody, here to the SEO. When it comes around to playoffs, we're keeping things chugging along, baby. We are here, we are ready to go, and we are very far along the line considering the entire playoff situation. But you may see a little bit of different faces. Let's go ahead and get that thing underway. My name is Mick. Joining me today is going to be the likes of Ethan rather than Scott. He's subbing out for the week because I don't know. We're not going to talk about it. He's not going to talk about it. I've had my off week too, but playoffs, I feel like we're here to rumble.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here tonight, and we're going to have a really good set of matchups for everybody tonight. Ascent being the map, going to be really interesting. Don't see that too often. Not actually. We're going to be having, I believe, Niner Esports on defense, which will be a good start to everything tonight, and really looking forward to this matchup.
Yeah, speaking of the matchups, let's go ahead and get a little bit of a peek preview into what we're dealing with here for the night because we do have two matchups going on here for the entire day. So to go ahead and start things off, you can obviously tell you see the map pools for it, you saw the logos for it. We're doing Niner Esports versus Georgia Tech White, so obviously going to be a very good matchup in its own respect because what we've seen of these two, they're just insane. Just all things considered, this is going to be the upper bracket that we're knocking out right now because we do have a lot more lowers to go with. And on the other side, we are going to be dealing with University of Florida Orange and Louisiana Tech Blue. So things are still going underway. Now that one of these teams are going to be out. If they do lose, keep in mind they still have ample chance to give themselves a little bit of run in the lower bracket, but we got to get this knocked out of the way. So this is going to be probably the better week, I'd say, in terms of the actual matchups going on. The rest of the weeks, though, I mean, you got to really see who drops down there because there has to be a winner at the end of the day. And I don't think any of those games can be real stomps, all things considered. So I think we still have a lot to work with. But back to our pretty faces, back to the maps to see what we're dealing with because obviously, once again, as you mentioned, Ascent being the map here tonight, we got to take a little bit of a closer look at these bands because, I mean, teams, they have preferences, whether it be good or bad, whether it be three-site maps, whether it be some kind of a weird variable thrown in there. But for Ascent to go ahead and be the one drawing out, it's a little bit too obvious since we're at this point of the playoffs and so much on the line. You kind of have to go for the tried and true.
Exactly. And seeing all these maps come first, a little strange seeing all these bans. Lotus is definitely one that's odd to see so early. I would expect to see Sunset there for sure, but I guess some leagues some teams just don't prefer to have Sunset in their map pool, and Lotus especially, and so they just chose to ban it first. And I mean, it is what it is, and may as well go to the tried and true Ascent where it's going to be a really good matchup between the teams, and especially in a best of one, it's really important that you do get your best foot forward in these matches.
Yeah, and I think rather than a gentleman's agreement kind of scenario, you want to have the upper hand at any point possible. So, I mean, whenever you get around to it, you just go and ban the maps that you're not feeling comfortable with. The other team does the same thing. And at the end of the day, if you're left with, like, say, 3 maps remaining, and you think the other two you're pretty strong with, you're banning a scene. You're throwing that wrench there and to say, look, now you got to choose something that we can feel strong in. But I don't think they're really wrung out because, I mean, Haven is one of those maps where teams do kind of feel very, very acclimated to more times than not. But obviously, Niners just didn't want to go with it. And buying the same thing, we had probably the 3 most common maps as those last 3 bans. But all things aside, it's going to be the tried and true, and it's what we were really used to. And I mean, I kind of expected at this point. I was hoping not to see it, but I mean, you can't really complain too much about Ascent because it's such a great map. But the one thing we could possibly complain about, or better yet, once again, just be very adjusted to it, will be the agent composition. We're expecting, obviously, when it comes around to it, the Jet, the Sova, the KO, the Omen, and the KJ. It's just like, it's every time we see this map, it's like that's what's being brought out. We have seen a little bit of adjustments here recently. We've seen some differentials, but I think, quite frankly, when we deal with what we're going on off this alone, I mean, it's that stage in the season, man. It's really just what it comes down to. You can't differentiate, and if you do, it has to be a straight counter. But I mean, comfort picks are a thing for a reason. These guys have been playing these agents forever now, and I don't think they have a reason to switch it up, really.
Absolutely. These comps have been set in stone for so long now. And once you're in this upper level of playoffs, there's no reason to switch unless you've been VOD reviewing the other team and you know exactly what they're going to do and you have some counters. Ascent is not that map. Ascent is the map where you're going to stay exactly the same the entirety of the season unless some different agent shifts in the meta happen. But so far, we haven't seen that. And even with ISO, I'm not positive that we will. This comp has been a thing for a very, very long time now. And so I think we're going to be riding out that wave on Ascent for a little bit longer. But to be honest, it still should provide for a really good matchup.
I think ISO, I mean, he could be somewhat of a little introduction. You can kind of play that pseudo initiator to a certain degree, just like we see out of Yoru. But he's much easier because, I mean, you don't have flashes where you're kind of throwing your team in the line. You have those easy vulnerabilities, which make gunfights kind of feel surefire. I mean, he provides so much, but I don't know really at this point. And even I'm not really core. I don't know if we have 1 week left or if this is the week where he's actually available competitively yet. I know it's a 2 week kind of refresher period, but even then, I mean, still, it's at this point now, unless you're really just kind of knowing that you're confident and you're going to run that lower bracket and you just kind of want to have some fun with it, get some extra matches in, which I don't think anybody really wants to do because you're getting yourself guaranteed for grands here. That's really what it comes down to. It's just saying, do we get ourselves the next couple of weeks of actually competing and leading up to Thanksgiving, or do I just want to knock everything out of the way and just know we can kind of chill out because it's final season? And good God, what I love is a little bit more study time when it comes around to what I'm here for school for compared to esports a little bit more so.
Yeah, absolutely. Teams are starting to use him as far as scrimmages go. I know I played a scrimmage yesterday where we played against an ISO. That was a really interesting matchup, believe it or not, and it actually worked pretty well. Their coach had some really good set plays for them, and I won't describe which team it is, obviously, but really enjoyed that experience. And also, he should be unbanned next week as well. So we'll see what happens in the collegiate scene, and I guess what happens in the pro scene once he does end up there in some of the tournaments. I'm expecting kind of a deadlock situation, to be honest with you, where maybe teams will try her out for a little bit and then maybe realize that as good as ISO is, he's not viable in metas across different maps. And so they'll just go back to those comfort picks like you were talking about earlier, even though ISO does prove to be, like you were saying, a good pseudo initiator type of deal. Unfortunately, I don't know if the value will be there, but that's for us to find out in the future.
Yeah, and even then, another thing we kind of went ahead and mentioned was going to be the likes of those extra couple weeks kind of being able to take it off. So we can go ahead and look at the bracket a little bit to kind of give a lay of the land of what it looked like leading up to this point, what it's going to look like going forwards, because, well, context is important here. You can see what's happened with these two guys so far. Already thus far, Niners just taking their clean run there on the top side. You can see they beat UTK Gray. They also went ahead and had themselves a run against LTU Blue and University of Florida Blue, which, I mean, obviously people had high expectations for getting around to this point. But, I mean, that's one of those matches where you're expecting, okay, one of the big guys, one of the top shots, they're going to have to drop down to a certain degree. So, I mean, there are sacrifices. UGA Red had that same exact kind of situation handed to them at the very start of the playoffs. But looking on the other side, Georgia Tech White, I mean, this is the team that I've kind of had my bets on a little bit for the entirety of the season. I mean, I've seen what they've accomplished at Red Bull Campus Clutch. I've seen what they've done to scrims. I've seen their match results across the board, and they're just an extremely impressive team. So this should be probably, I don't want to go ahead and just make something seem too exciting, but this feels like it is going to be more than likely the best match of the season and possibly grand finals rematch if we really get down to it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that front. Seeing all these teams compete and especially playing Georgia Tech White a few times, it was quite the experience. They're an incredible team, and I believe they can do really well in these upper playoffs. Niner Esports has also been a powerhouse in this league, and it'll be really interesting to see what happens in this match. Completely agree with you on the hype. I think this will be an incredible matchup. Should be really good for game one. And even on the lower bracket side of things, Louisiana Tech, I had the pleasure of working with them at Red Bull Campus Clutch, and I believe they also have some really good potential here for the bracket stages. But also, UF Orange has some really good potential as well. So, honestly, some incredible matchups towards the end of the year, which is really the best you can hope for in leagues like this. And cannot wait to see both these teams play and what it turns out to be at the end of the bracket here.
Yeah, and even then you can already see the other side of the bracket. We do have 2 more rounds remaining because we got to worry about these lower playoffs that will start going next week. But I mean, as it stands, you can already see who has really been knocked down here and how many teams have still gone ahead and like left themselves drawing out because knowing what we have to work with, it's going to come eventually. But we got to go ahead and get it planned out first because we're going to go ahead and get ourselves into the game. We're going to get things running and going along because, well, obviously, you get to see yourself with the agent compositions. But like I said, we can't freak out about them too much. But just go ahead. Once again, a little refresher. You see University of Florida blue. You see RRG orange down there. University of Florida orange and LTU blue. And I mean, those are going to be your expected. I still am a little bit drawn back by kind of those earlier stages, but we can't go over it too much. It's all in the history. It's all in the past. And honestly, whichever team gets to this point is going to be obviously dealing with the likes of one of these two teams. And University of Florida blue, I got to say, probably are the best chance to really find themselves something, or the orange squad, because I think RRG Orange have had themselves a good series so far, a good entire playoffs, but I mean, still, you got a lot to look forward to. But finally, an agent select. Good, mighty gracious. We're getting there. We're able to play it out, and we're able to go ahead and see what we're dealing with. And even then, with the hover for Niner Esports, it's what we kind of expected earlier on, so it's nothing really all that crazy.
Yeah, do you like to see the introduction of a KO here? I mean, it's sort of as you would expect. Really excited to see if he's got any lineups. I think KO can be really powerful on Ascent, given people are good at him. And yep, looks like the KO on both sides, and it's an exact mirror. Shocker on Ascent, but should still provide for a really good matchup. And the attack side and defense side will both be really interesting for both of these teams, and I'm really looking forward to see what they both do in this matchup.
And I think, quite frankly, I mean, see what we're doing. Obviously, mirror composition, not really freaking out about. Something we're used to, something we knew, something we literally guessed down to the T with every single agent selection. There is some variance that's allowed here. Sometimes you'll see an extra raise, maybe. You'll see maybe a switch up in the other initiator going for like a Sky or whatnot. But, I mean, just going for it. I think these two teams are the most kind of, I don't know, qualified when it comes around to using this competition, especially inside this league, because you'll see every now and again you'll go for Hunter's Furies. They just don't really make too much sense. They're kind of more based off the calls early in the round without really any kind of backup. You'll see these kinds of KO knives, they'll just be kind of preemptory, and even then not really waiting for the actual execution on site because they have like different kind of senses that really tap in to let them know early on without having to invest that knife. But these squads, I think they're so concise when it comes around to playing off of each other that there's not really too much of a concern. Watching Niners last week on Haven, their retakes were just astounding to watch. You saw them just kind of play with each other. Every single trade had a warrant, had a reason. Every player was where they were for a reason, and you could see that unravel. But Georgia Tech, they're just all insane fraggers that even then, whether or not they're together, they find results. Speaking of results, you're looking for some early. Already going ahead, going under those panels, looking for an early frag as we beat you, and it's just not going to work out for them. But still, a little damage taken. No stage here on the map. All damage is final, so you're at least happy with that result.
Yeah, good info as well given to the enemy team. They could lurk back A here. Granted that there is no flank utility down, but it looks like Georgia Tech is going to go ahead and walk into the B area anyways. KO is staring them down on a jiggle peak, so I guess we'll see where this ends up.
A little bit of an early entry over onto the B site. No real default being encouraged here. You just see an actual hit coming out. It's off the bat from a Reton Dart, and even then you're looking for a little bit of a dash. There it goes. Completely given up on the side of Georgia Tech. And honestly, you can see Niner Esports going ahead and getting a little bit more emphasis on actually getting themselves properly set up. So already, you can see the damage has been done for a couple of these GT Tech players, but you don't really care. You get the spike down. It's free real estate, and it goes all the way down to the post plant. 5v5. Something we're not really used to, but I mean, we'll take it at the end of the day.
Absolutely, and it looks like this retake is coming in swiftly now. They got to clear out B main and also the site. And it looks like they're coming in through the cat area. Appreciate is able to get 2 And DJL comes back for another 2 of his own. Looks like he's in the back sight now for 1v3 and only manages to get 1. What a great retake from Niner Esports.
I mean, so swift at the same exact time. I mean, you can already see how they did it. I mean, so many players lost immediately. It seemed like a 3-for-1 kind of trade to start things off. So you knew just right off the back of that you're going to find success in the round and you're going to close up the shop. Knowing that Jet even didn't really have too much of an actual kind of degree of emphasis inside of that besides those early picks or the early damage going off onto the KO, you don't really get too many ticks, and that's kind of what you're looking for. But even then, you still find enough to really get yourself a Vandal and a half armor to work with. And while we also see solos with that Bulldog, there's going to be 2 guns that are really going to have a strong emphasis going forwards. I mean, you find yourself with these guns in hand. Those are the big things you're going to make sure to kind of not drop. And better yet, not over-aggress with. But it being in Pichu's hands, that could be the one player to possibly drop it with that one Sheriff being on the field at a DJL. That could be a matchup that could really just turn the entire tides of this thing and give possibly GT White a strong start of a 1-1.
Absolutely. Seeing the Sheriff forced up means that Georgia Tech is looking confident for this next round. Maybe get a few good picks, as you were saying, to get these good guns off of them. Let's hope that the defense of Niner Esports doesn't get too aggressive here, because if they do, then they can give up some guns to the enemy team and make what should be a lost round turn into something incredibly winnable. Looks like we are back alive into the match after a short tech. And again, they're lined up outside of the B site, so I guess we'll see what happens here.
I just got to see really what this entry looks like. Its initial engages, and already, I mean, you talked about that emphasis, that kind of entry, that entire aggression that happens on the B side of the map. But I got to give my props over to Pichu and not giving that over, because I think maybe even heard us there in the background kind of saying, you know what, that is a pretty good idea. I can't get this up early. I need to make sure I have a teammate nearby to where if it does get dropped, it's kind of like a domino effect. Say everybody gets their turn with the Vandal. It gives our team a chance to actually win out the round. With only 4 classics on the side of Niner Esports, or better yet, Georgia Tech White, you get to see what they can really do to kind of get these close angles set up, because that classic right click could go ahead and just completely clean somebody up unexpectedly, and that's a result that you're not really expecting. And it could be at least a Spectre, better yet a Bulldog. Just depends how that gamble works out for him. So the quick entry going and executing right through tree. You're looking for this stance on the site. Georgia Tech White, they've done exactly that. Blindsided the KJ, got a gun to work with, and have a spike going down as well with complete real estate to this site with numbers of vendors on top of it.
Yeah, they gave one of the guns up, and I'm not sure if one of the players managed to get it, but it is a 4v5, and if you are Niner Esports, might look a little scary, especially for this Under Heaven setup. We're going to have to see how they do contact this out of heaven. They're clearing most of site by now. The tree has been cleared, and there they go on the entry to the site. There goes Pichu. So now it's an even scarier situation. The contact is coming in through tree. Zumba is going to go down, but now they have to clear out Under Heaven in order to clear out this round.
Good numbers so far. Fight's going the way, and even in Georgia Tech White, they had themselves a chance, and that Vandal dropped for them out towards that box. But problem is, you had so many players towards that door on that gate that they were going ahead, looking at the long lineup, and if somebody even attempted to pick it up, you're going to be losing in the meantime regardless. So good stance here for Niner Esports, considering they lost 2 players. That's all you got to deal with. You had the majority of your squad to carry things over with. You have one of each of the guns that you're expecting on that last round to be carrying over, and now this is the point where Georgia Tech get themselves a full purchase.
Yeah, absolutely. The good split retake there really allowed for not only Georgia Tech to take some guns off some folks, but also for Niner Esports to get a little more confident. You know, they were going to that round at a pretty big disadvantage into a 4v5 and then a 3v5, but they didn't let it get to them, and they went ahead and retook the site with absolute efficiency, and now we're going to see a good gun round play out.
Yeah, got to see really what Georgia Tech can accomplish, considering they found so many kills there in that last round with really nothing to work with but classics. It just seems they can win a round like this pretty definitively with the Vandals in hand. That's what you expect, but quite frankly, that could also be the furthest from the truth, depending on really how these initial setups go. You see the default kind of occurring around the map, a little bit of an attendance call being made here for the likes of Georgia Tech, trying to see where these players are at, but you see no real over-aggression yet. You see no actual gunfights. You see no real information given up just yet, but even then, the middle of the map is also going to be a little bit of a hot topic with that alarm bot sitting there and Sova backing it up. It's a little bit of a weird stance, but even then the peak lets you know that Sova is on that B side of the map. And if you want to hit A, you probably have a little bit of a hand up, but you got to once again kind of check those numbers, get an idea of what's going on there, because they're going for a 3-2 split up, which has a lot more emphasis and a lot more protection allocated towards A. But considering the actual utility there, it doesn't really feel like it has as much of that KJ being unpresent. But a Knight already going ahead. Speaking of KJ, knocking down the one for Georgia Tech. Ezra's going to be knocked out. And a Shark's going to find DJL. This is looking outstanding for Niner Esports to look for a triple down. And that's nearly what they do. But Atomio has only 3 health and a dream. With only 2 players to work against.
Yeah, this could be a really interesting round here. Still has the dash, so could take it good 1v1 against Knight here. Let's see what happens. Maybe he'll shoot a shock dart. Nope, just recon. Doesn't have his drone either, so this could be interesting. They might just double hold the angle and look like going for the swing, and it's not going to work out. Knight with a great 3K in that round and some good play as well, considering that they were down 2 guns for that round. Great information given in mid. They probably knew that it was going to be some sort of mid split with his drone that came from market, so they stacked 3 onto the A site, and quite frankly, it worked out for him.
I mean, yeah, going forward and now even then just kind of having that 3rd round work out for you can see the PG's already going ahead and making sure to opt in for that Vandal, or excuse me, the Operator, because it's just a little bit of a differential. Had the Vandal for the first couple rounds and still has the money to go ahead and afford a fortune like that. That's the kind of luxury you get with these win round streaks, and even then kind of holding onto your life for 2 of those rounds. You're not having to allocate too much so far. So it's a good look for him. It's a good gun to be having, obviously, but even then it's set up over towards the A side. It's an immediate execution going on towards B. You got to see the players to get the entry on side, but it's only Jet who can really close that gap and needs to go for that swing a little bit earlier so you're not giving too much over to Solus. But with only 1 kill being exchanged on both sides, that's a gun to pick up. That's a little bit more to work with here for Torture Tech White. As long as they play a little bit more aggressive with these stingers, try to accomplish something, but they just haven't really gotten enough out of it. So in a 2v4 scenario, you know, there's barely any players really holding on to that site. They're holding on to stingers in their hands. He uses weaponry, and quite frankly, it's just not going to be enough to get the job done. It comes down to Ezra with the Vandal in hand. Can make things expensive, but you got to at least start that kill strand to make things expensive. We just didn't see that get started. It's 4 players of Niner Esports. Sure, you dropped 1, but that was a round where so much was invested that that's actually just still a good thing at the end of the day.
Absolutely, and this is Knight's 3rd round where he's gotten a 3K, so he's having incredible impact in this game. Really looking forward to see how he will turn out through the rest of it, and to be honest with you, it looks like that Georgia Tech's going to be a little bit down at the moment. This is their 2nd gun round. They have seen the op, so they know it might be in play somewhere, but judging by the util they used last time and that KO spotted all 5 at B, I'm curious to see what strategy they're going to try and pull out for this. It looks like some sort of a mid-split, which looks like is pretty standard at this point, and we'll see the Jet swing from Cat, so maybe KG will clear with the turret. I guess we'll have to see, and maybe Jet will have some real impact this round.
More than likely could. Should, better yet. But it comes down to an initial fight that's already lost. On the likes of Atemio going ahead and closing that thing out. So that's a huge chance to be having early on, and at least better yet to go ahead and get the Operator out of those hands of the attacking side. But they're not really too concerned about it. That's a little bit, I wouldn't say of a not effort, but considering that, you know, that already everybody has those guns, they're not really too stressed about having an Operator on the attacking side. It's more important that by the time they take that real estate and get into a post-plant scenario, that's when the players be picking it up. That's when they're going to be holding on to that spike and not really even worrying about just kind of pushing in and looking to kind of press those angles. More than likely just holding them. But with 1 player already picked off, you understand that smoke's going to be a little bit of a trivial objective, obstacle in your way. And I think, quite frankly, it's a good call to kind of bait you back and things up. But even then, they go for the double down. They know that players are overextending and they want to see if they can find themselves a fight. But it may be too late for that.
Looks like the A play's been called as well, so they're probably just going to scoot up here. What they don't know is that the stack is already here. They've probably heard at least 2, and here comes the Odin spam. Good for 1 so far, and Anishar, oh man, they just cleaned up this round. Now the KJ's got to lurk in for Cat to solidify everything, and Anishar's just going to walk straight through the smoke, it looks like. Oh, there it is, and yep, cleaned up Ezra. What an absolutely tragic round. They unfortunately went straight into the stack, and it punished them.
I mean, seeing that smoke there, I just kind of expect them to back up, play somewhere different. They made the call. They saw the second fight, try to come through or at least have an idea of it. But it was just more Niner Esports trying to check for something. And if you didn't find that kill, well, quite frankly, that's where you kind of just play something out and you just commit to it because there's still 2 more options. Middle of the map or over towards tree. And that's just if you kind of want to go for A, and even you want to go for a detour route. But you still have B, but you just barely have any time to really execute for it. Regardless, though, still a lot of rushing required to even hit A on that time, which wasn't expected. Wasn't really the requirement you were expecting. But regardless, it's still fine at the end of the day, and still a kill and exchange is made for the likes of Georgia Tech White. So that's a gun drop. That's a player made, and even then, a new weapon to work with there for the squad. But even more so, you got to look towards the middle of the map and that missed Operator shot. That's a lurking Ezra going around the map looking for something. But even then, who's not lurking? Pichu right up the middle for 1 more.
Yeah, looks like they're going to be doing their same A Cat split, and the Cat is being held down right now by Jet, so they're just going to let the bomb plan happen, play a good retake here. The KJ is going to be on the lurk, and now the KJ is going to be rotating in from B to potentially even capitalize off her. Good Sova ult here. It's going to shake things up on site. K was able to get 1, and unfortunately just traded out, so now it is this combat tree, and the KJ will win it. Looks like she wants to ult as well, but looks like the Omen's made it out, so now it's just a 2v2 retake, and pretty interesting situation here. Just got scanned, and yep, he's going to get taken out by the Odin. So now it's just going to be a 2v1, and let's see what he can do. Oh, immediately taken out by that Odin. Wow.
Yeah, quite frankly, little to not there, and it's just it's an unfortunate circumstance to look at, quite frankly. I mean, already going ahead, continuing this reign. You see Niner Esports. We're expecting Georgia Tech White to at least come in here, kind of keep the game even, knowing that this map is a set and every team should know it. But sitting at 6-0 here for a start, Niner Esports guaranteeing themselves an even half, no matter what. It's kind of just unheard of to a certain degree. I would say, at least against this team. There's probably been scrims that have happened before behind the scenes where they've kind of had this result, maybe trialing something, but I mean, in a point where it's like a full game and where you see stakes in the line, we're having to see Georgia Tech put into a scenario where they're having to force things out as much as they can just for some sorts of relevancy, and going for the half armor and everything works. It's not the biggest sacrifice, I'd say, but consider that Ocean's here on the field, and it's already had a field day with you guys. It's looking for a little bit more.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to try and get the info on B. No one is in yet, so he's got that clear info. He's going to take the reload. They're going to scale up, and probably we're going to see a B execute here. That's the things. Omen's trying to get his smokes up and ready, and they may even try and ult in here via Omen or sorry, Killjoy, and I guess we'll just have to see what happens. Looks like the Owl Drone might come out to spot all these players, and this could get caught off on a really bad timing. Instead, it looks like Silva might be going for a little bit of a spam here, or to break the Killjoy ult.
Doesn't really have the shock dart damage to go ahead and close the thing out. Should only cap down to 75, and KJ's ult now being buffed out the wazoo in terms of health. But I mean, all things considered, you do get the entry, and that's what you're looking for. Operator has no real impact in this map so far because you know that the smoke is there. Looking for an early swing, but it's not really going to surmount to anything because the door's now being closed. You see the rest of the players of Georgia Tech are going ahead and holding on to the torch, just cleaning up shop with Solus on a 4K and completely mitigating that entire entry. You pop an ultimate, throw the players there, and it's just gets nothing done.
Man, just ran straight through that CT smoke to clean up the entirety of Georgia Tech on B there. And man, it's 7-0 now. You gotta wonder, is Georgia Tech gonna take a timeout? Are they gonna take a moment to try and gather themselves and see if they can really get back into this game? I mean, we're seeing some pretty good entries and some good bomb plants from them, but we're not seeing much on the post plant, and it's really starting to show. I'm hoping that Georgia Tech can get a few rounds here to make the game interesting, but so far, it doesn't seem to be the case.
Doesn't really ever seem like they found themselves in even an actual hold there initially. They had to look at these gunfights. They got to find those early numbers, and quite frankly, they always found themselves in trades, which, I mean, sure, you're coming out even, but still. It feels like every one of these Niner players so far have had themselves a little bit of a hero moment, going ahead on a 2-3K kind of scenario, and it just feels like once that's executed, the rest of the round is just completely nullified. And you've got to make sure to kind of look at these early picks that will give you necessarily nothing in exchange. You need to find these engagements that just show as definitive wins rather than exchanges. And still, with so many players, that's the moment that it comes down to. A 3-for-1 exchange early on in the round, a 2v3. You got to understand where these players are. Anashar's on the side of the map. You guys have free reign towards B as well, but the decision has been made, the call has been made to go over on this A side, execute off of it, and Ezra, sitting on 5 HP, is going to be the one to kind of go ahead and throw their body on the line for something greater.
Man, great round from Ezra. That just turned into a death for him, but oh man, the Odin cleans up too. I was saying this round was going to go really well, but it turns out I just jinxed the whole thing. Knight having a great 1v2 there, and great utility to come out. It's a shame Ezra was so low. I feel like maybe could have pulled the round in their favor, especially considering that 2K in mid. And it was going so well, and all of a sudden they get onto A, and their bluff is called, and Knight secures the 1v1s to really get that round.
Caster Curse only comes to life, just note, whenever you say it, not when you think it. You didn't get to that point yet. I think I may have cursed it, because trust, if it does work off thoughts, I would have made a lot of money off of VCT champions. But all things considered, how everything works out so far, I mean, even then, this game isn't going as we're expecting to a certain degree. With Niner Esports sitting at 8-0 here for a start, it just feels like that Odin just can't really be stopped too much. And even it's not an insane weapon by any means necessary. It's just the RPM that really sets it apart from a lot of other teams. But the thing is, with it already being over here towards this B side, it doesn't even come down to the players. It didn't really come down to utility. It's the gun that's stopping you 9 times out of 10, which finally gets mitigated, and you still have equilibrium in players. So Georgia Tech White, if there is a time to wake up, this should be the round to do it.
Yep, good 3v3 retake going on, and they have good positioning to watch for stairs, but no one seems to be watching the lane. Oh, except for the Owl Drone. So now they know where the op is, and they're going to be holding for it. That KO got them a lot of impact, but now KO is low, and let's see how they handle this. Looks like a, right click from the KO. He gets one on the site, and it looks like now it's a pretty dire situation. B's good for 1 in a 1v2 here. Good positioning inside the smoke, and I will find one more. He does, but is traded out. Almost had his hero moment, as you can say, but unfortunately does not, and that's Niner Esports getting their 9th round, and simply just all of their players are having impact. This KO in particular has probably 13 to 14 assists at this point, and you really got to start to wonder, when are they going to start shutting these really hero plays down, and it seems that it's not going to be the case.
I mean, the transfer could have been there for those last 2 players, but even then more, so you get it. You can't really hand it over to the player too much. They had the opportunity, and still an attempt was made. A player was cut down. It wasn't a complete whiff, but it's just kind of close but no cigar kind of scenario every single time. Not just for these individual Georgia Tech players, but better yet for the entirety of the squad when you kind of consider what they've provided thus far. They're just not able to kind of find these situations. Once things slow down a little bit, the game actually starts to work against them. All that chaos is a lot better for them at the end of the day, and they're just not really capitalizing off the top of that. You see these rounds where they start to slow down a little bit more, so even then swinging and letting that one way go ahead and play for Peachy to find these easy kills. You got to understand that when this game and it comes around to peaks and shoves, you got to be the one to push. And quite frankly, it feels like they do that in the actual plan, but in post, it makes it very difficult. Still, finding some equilibrium. And I think, honestly, they can close this one out, but they just got to find that spike. They got to go all the way back to spawn. And I think that from the shadow is going to be the only thing to really do that, because it's only B all by his lonesome.
A bit of a hero play here. It's looking like a little risky, and sticks the TP. That was a good move. Now, the KJ is going to call his bluff. He's going to sit towards the B site, and the KO thinks maybe they're in CT spawn. Doesn't seem to be the case. So it looks like B might actually catch a really good timing to walk into B here. Has his flash and smokes, so this could turn into a really winnable round. B is their best player at the moment, so I'm hoping we could probably see a good play here. Looks like he'll be able to sneak past this turret and potentially get the kill on the KJ here, isolating it into a 1v1, but we'll just have to see.
30 seconds left.
Turret barely peeks him. Doesn't get any information, though.
It comes down to the flank.
Oh, still goes to the peak, though. I mean, with so little time on the clock, you got to give it to the guy. There's not too much you could have done in a situation like that. And even in the full flank, I would have loved to see it kind of unravel there. But problem is, just time is your enemy at that point.
Man, and now you got to hope for a 10-2 half, which is a pretty dire situation, especially when you're going on the defensive ascent. I mean, you want to hope for at least an 8-4 on this map, because you can do a little bit better on your defense. But if you're Georgia Tech right now, maybe your mental's just not really where it should be. Maybe your players aren't performing as well as they should be, and it's really showing, and this could turn into a really bad situation, and so far it really has. So hopefully they'll get this round and make the next a really competitive one, or else we're going to see a pretty quick matchup here tonight.
That's all it really comes down to. You got to make that next half really worth at this point, because you're locked at a 2 inside of this match so far, and quite frankly, it's not really enough to work off of. I've only seen probably my 3 years of casting Valorant, probably 2 comebacks from a 10-2, and now that we're in collegiate. So, I mean, that could be a possibility, but man, it's going to be a long shot here for Georgia Tech. It is a mirror composition, but I mean, still, it just comes down to the shots, really. I mean, once people talk about the patience, they talk about how they play it, they like the conflict, they like the entire chaos of the entire game. Well, Hunter's Fury, there's the chaos you're looking for, but quite frankly, it's not working for you. It's working purely against you, knocking so many players down to being one shot. The Sova is the only one who can actually take a legitimate fight. Shock darts are going to come out. You have that Odin spray, which is always present, it feels like, but still, even regardless of all that, you still find yourself a chance, and it all comes down to Pichu. Looking to hold things out, has to worry about that spike, noses back towards Wine still. You needed to know that, okay, maybe I just play for retake here, because I don't know where B could be lurking about, and if I pick up a Vandal, he's only sitting at 1 shot, so that's a pretty easy kill to go ahead and execute off.
30 seconds left.
Man, yeah, this is actually turned into a pretty winnable round courtesy of DJL, and ooh, good smoke fake from the dome, and so Jet might think he's there, but already looks like called the bluff. Might be, nope. Just kind of playing around in CT, and B's got plenty of time here to work on how to get this bomb plant and how to play the post plant effectively against,
10 seconds
you know,
left.
a Jet who has had a pretty all-right game and has an operator. Even though you are 1 shot, you are unfortunately dead to rights. So looks like he is going to smoke heaven and play outside of it. You might hear the Jet coming up here in a moment. He still has his flash, but I don't think he's going to use it. He's going to walk in the smoke, and yeah, there we go! Georgia Tech winning their first round courtesy of B, and a great hero play from DJL. Really able to isolate the Odin from Knight, even with the counter roll, and so many players being low. They finally got their first. Great to see, and honestly, it was a great looking round.
I think everybody, including Georgia Tech, would like to see that probably 3 rounds ago at minimum. But, I mean, regardless, you find yourself that first, but you just got to back it up. Because the issue is, at this point, when you see actually winning a round, you're at that point where it kind of hurts you a little bit, considering that you see these guys working out with these half armors, these kind of weird buys to make sure they have an entire kit to work with because they don't have a win streak on their hands. They haven't won so many consecutive rounds. That switch up when they kind of have to force themselves out to a certain degree and they barely have any money in the first place, they're having to once again do that same exact thing. But the good thing that's benefiting them here is no Hunter's Fury, no kind of big shutdown, no massive damage to go ahead and kind of shove you guys out of A main. But it comes down to still the point of, can you make sure to execute off that? Because still, we see them liking to go for these A hits, but it just feels like they haven't worked all that well in the post plant scenario. And they need to make sure they have a definitive lead by the time they even get there. And with two players swinging, possibly PG in a second, that could be the turning tide they need. Make sure to make it clean. Don't go for an exchange, but I mean, worst case scenario, at least keep it even.
Great info play off of A, and the Jets actually gonna get one and get out. Anasharp goes ahead and trades to KJ as well, so they knew this A play was coming, and Knight is good for one as well, making it 2v5. They have a KO ult as well for this last round, and Rick's like, yep, there it goes. BJL and B are in a pretty rough situation right now, and it doesn't look like they're gonna come back from it at all, because all their exits are covered. The Omen is holding from mid, and it looks like the KO, so we're still gonna stick to A site, and they're gonna walk back into it once it's
30 seconds left.
Looks like, yep, they've got really good utility for this round, and honestly, it's now they're walking into the stack. And there goes the smoke as well, and the Owl Drone catches out B as well, so they're aware this play is coming, and they've got the crossfire to prove it, and the round should be over.
Yep, just good as done. Already, once again, another flawless round here for Niner Esports, just to close things out here for the entire half.
Switching
That's
sides.
just an insane scoreline that we just couldn't really have expected. I mean, Georgia Tech seeing them run over the likes of almost everybody in the league this entire season thus far. Keep in mind, things won't be over for them, but I mean, they have a very long road ahead of them, not only just in terms of this game to go for a comeback, but better yet, the entirety of the lower bracket if they find themselves falling down a step. So, I mean, there's a lot riding on this, knowing this is the best of one and seeing how things are going to go forward. So, man, it's just unfortunate for him, but still, this is the hand you were dealt. This is the one you kind of worked with, and better the one you never really recovered from. So, quite frankly, there's a time to do it. It's going to be now or never. I mean, keep in mind, you do have a little leniency out of that, 12th around the map point, but good God, you just don't want it to hit that stage.
Absolutely not, and it looks like Georgia Tech's going for a mid play. They are known for them, and it might be found out here due to that Killjoy turret. There is util used in A main, so the Jet is going to have to clear that smoke, but now Georgia Tech has walked all the way up mid. They are aware it's not a B play, so now they have the info. Now they're quite aware that this A play is about to come in, and with Niner Esports not getting any information aside from that one person could be mid, this is looking to be a pretty dire situation with a triple flank already coming in. So this will be a really interesting round. We may even see a 5v5 retake on Pistol again on the other site. We'll just have to see how the trades come out.
With the Nano Storm already going down, there's not really any stall there. It just comes down to that exact point, and then once again, when that smoke goes into degrade, you can see everybody else on the flank start to go ahead and kind of entry themselves on the site. Problem is, it takes those flash, but it doesn't take much time for all these Georgia Tech White players to once again fall. The flank was an idea, but it wasn't really a success, as we once again see Niner Esports closing out themselves to get that map point kind of scenario. And we talked about the Vandal on the first side, the Bulldog to back it up. But quite frankly, if you find yourself working with it once and finding a win off of it that just results in 11 in a row, then you know what? Let's go ahead and run it again one more time, and let's see if it works out just as well.
Man, that was an incredible retake there. Niner Esports is really aware of everything, and they were ready for that play, and turning from that flash and netting two, that was a big moment. And yeah, this is shaping up to be the last round of this game. They forced about as much as they can do, and they're going in for another inflow play on A here. The Owl Drone might have spotted them, so there goes the Sova. Jet and Killjoy are activating a Cat now, so now you have to worry if you're B. Oh, am I going to have to take a really big fight here? He knows they're coming, so he's throwing a smoke out. He's holding them. We're going to have to see how they clear this out. The KO knife does go out and detects Pichu, so no dash, but doesn't need it. Gets a great kill on the entry. Tomiao only is good for one as Solus will trade him out, and now there's a KO in heaven. Good damage onto that one player in main, but it's looking like a bit of a dire situation being a 2v4. And the Nanostorm will come out to delay even harder. So now the Killjoy is sitting by the tree door, only with a Sheriff, and has to face the others on site. Solus with the Vandal is able to get Zumba, and now it's a 4v1. Looking like the end, folks.
Just to keep the game alive, you're in a 1v4 with a Sheriff. A lot to ask for out of a singular player. Ezra, I've seen some great things out of him before, but I mean, even then, at a point like that, it's just, you're not really accepting defeat, but it's just the weight on your shoulders just go ahead and just kind of knock you down and say, is this even worth it to a certain degree just to keep on trying for another back-to-back to look for relevancy in this game? And I just don't know if it was really there. Considering the descent, a map you know, a map you feel like you know, and every now and again it just kind of throws you on your head. I mean, just put you in that scenario. We just couldn't really play the game, and I got to give it to Georgia Tech. I mean, they tried, and we saw some attempts out of them. We saw some good kind of executes to get the spike down, and some rounds that seemed like they had potential. But every time the post plant came through and the retake had to occur, Niners were just able to immediately mitigate that and feel like it wasn't even a setup.
Right, and I think something that I was missing from Georgia Tech tonight is their confidence. I had seen them play UKY Blue not too long ago, and they had quite a strange comp coming out. They had a Reyna in the game and a double duelist, and seeing the confidence that they had in that game, it was an absolute stomp of a matchup. And where was that Georgia Tech tonight? You know, they stuck to a
Yeah.
normal comp, sure, but I mean, they only brought a few rounds to be close, and they only got one round off Niner Esports. And Niner Esports has been an absolute tyrant in this upper bracket, but
Yeah.
Georgia Tech has also had some really good games of their own, so it was really interesting to see this matchup go so south for Georgia Tech.
And I just don't know how that's going to work out for them. I mean, it just felt like an off week for them, quite frankly. Looking at how they performed there, I mean, it just wasn't the team that we know to kind of have a limelight on them more times than not. But even then, better yet, it's Niner Esports also doing the same thing. It's also those teams where they had themselves out. They had the highest of highs, but sometimes they do have these maps where it feels like the lowest of lows for them. But Niner Esports, that's kind of the championship grade that I expect out of squads, and that always had to go ahead and kind of affiliate with not only just teams in collegiate, but tier two and tier one as well. It's these teams that show up and it feels like they're not even really enjoying themselves. They just kind of come to the game, they play, they win, they give themselves a high five, and that's what it really comes down to. There's no cheering when a round is clutch. There's no kind of attitude shift when anything hits the fan. It's more just like, okay, it's a part of the process. We're just going to keep on playing the game as we expect to and win this game at the end of the day. And that's exactly what they did. So congratulations to them. I mean, they saw it once more. Consistency is key, and I think they did it once more.
Yeah, absolute standout performance from all the people on Niner Esports. A real impact shown from their initiator characters, which is really what you want to see, and their duelist even having a little bit of impact as well, and a lot of hero rounds from them. So, I mean, hats off to them for sure. They truly were the better team tonight, and hope to see improvements for both teams throughout the rest of the season. And this is shaping up to be a pretty good grand finals matchup at the end of the season.
I think so as well. But the action for tonight at least isn't over. We still got a lot more games to go, and we at least have one more matchup on the other side of this. So we'll go ahead and throw things to a quick break, and we'll be back with our next matchup here. So we'll catch you then.
If only I could change it now. Not sure I even would. 'Cause I can feel it in my bones. Regret misunderstood. It's just a feeling that I found. Are we forced to play this out? 'Cause it's not supposed to be this way. Telling yourself it's just Day has passed like a hurricane to my heart, took it far away. See the lights on the other side. I'm going to get there and hope we will meet there. Day has passed like a hurricane to my heart, took it far away.
Welcome back, everybody. Go ahead, throw me all your hatred there in the chat. I know I said different matchup, but I completely forgot that we know how to enter you set up here for the Spirit Playoff season. No, we ignored it last week. Went ahead, got the feedback, got it thrown in. So we have Solus here today. One of the winners, the KJ you saw from the last matchup. As quick as it was of one, we still got at least got to do our formalities here and talk to the guys, see how they feel going into it. So Solus, just go ahead and get started things off. Not even really a question, just an introduction. How are you feeling about that last game? Obviously, you said confident, but is there any other descriptive terms you could throw out there for us?
Not really sure, but I just, listening to IGO, hear what they're calling, just following basic collegiate Valorant, it's
Yeah.
I trust my IGO very much, so just a lot of confidence going into this match.
And I think, quite frankly, I mean, considering what you talked about with y'all's kind of prior meetings when it comes around to Georgia Tech White, seeing how you guys played out that matchup, even more so, just how did you lead to Ascent? I want to say, because we're going to see this map, I want to say, probably every single time when it comes to the playoffs. I don't feel like we're going to change anything until the grand finals when we do see that best of three. You feeling as a sub, was that kind of any little bit of a factorization when it comes around to it? Because I've seen you guys like to play a lot of Haven over the course of the season, and the Ascent thing kind of struck me as a little bit of surprise here, considering now we're in playoffs.
So like the main team, they practice Ascent, and since I'm just a sub, we practice Ascent just as much. We just have like a general idea of how to take Ascent, how it works, and us getting defense first was just a really big, foot up when we started the game.
Yeah, and that was made pretty obvious throughout that entire matchup. And I've got the tracker pulled up here and looking at the stats, and it was a pretty one-sided matchup. And even as the sub, you had some really good, impactful rounds. And what was going through your mind through some of those retakes?
Every time there was a retake situation, I was just like, you know, I trust in my team to throw the util for me, and I'm just gonna start shooting my gun and tapping heads.
Yeah, I mean that's all you can ask for, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you had a really great 4K on one of those retake rounds, and Georgia Tech seemed unprepared at times for some of those retakes. And I mean, it's good to hear that you trust your IGL so much and have a lot of faith in them. And I hope the rest of the team did too, and it looks like they did. I mean, all the players had impact. You want to give a shout out to anyone?
I guess just the IGO Knight, he's like one of the smartest players I know in this game. He taught me a lot of things, and there's still a lot to learn, but he's one of the best.
That baffles me, man. You got your IG out there just running an Odin for an entire game. That
Yeah.
literally just boils my blood. I hate that so much. But regardless, so going ahead this week, obviously being done and dusted, you guys get yourself a very long break for the most part to kind of just give yourself some leeway here for a little while. Going ahead, next week, that's going to be that knockout stage, that kind of actual establishment of you into the grands. And I'm sure you guys are kind of looking forward to it, but better yet, if you had an opponent to choose in that scenario, knowing against the likes of Louisiana Tech and then the University of Orange roster, which one would you kind of prefer? Not just for the sake maybe just kind of stomping them, but if you would like to go ahead and have like a drawn out match and some real stuff to go back and review leading into grand finals, which one of those two did you really feel like could give you a run for your money?
I'm not really sure because I haven't played against them. I'm just a sub, so
Yeah.
I would like to see the full roster go against the University of Orange.
Gotcha. I think it'll be a good one as well, considering that, I mean, they definitely had a little bit of a more stance. I want to say a little more of a surprise factor, knowing that Blue's been went ahead and knocked down to lowers. But all things said and done, you've already given your shout outs. But even then, you went ahead and shout out Knight. Do you want to give any shout outs for yourself or just for the team in general before you go ahead and head out and give yourself an easy rest of the night?
Not really. I don't know. Just a great team to be part of. I've known them for around 2 years. Just a good community, good vibes all around.
All right. Well, in that case, then we'll go ahead and wrap things up here. This time, not lying, we will be back for the next matchup. There's no extra interviews going on here. So we'll throw it to a quick break. We'll be right back with the players there. Catch you then. Welcome back, everybody, here to the SEL. We're getting the second match for the night underway, or better yet, the final match of the night. Considering that the first one was a little bit of a quicker expedition than we thought, sitting at 13-1, winning for the Niners over the likes of Georgia Tech White. We're moving on to a different matchup for University of Florida Blue, their Orange squad. A little bit of shock here, I'd say, to say the least, against the Louisiana Tech Blue squad. So two teams that we've kind of had a little bit of a go-ahead with these teams. I mean, they've been a very kind of, I'd say, unique in their own right. It's not like Georgia Tech and what we saw with Niners, where they were kind of the two Titans that do highest rankings in terms of the entire tournament. Just kind of expecting to go the exact route we were expecting them to go inside the playoffs. But these two teams, I gotta say, have had a run of their own. I mean, it's been really outstanding to see what they've accomplished so far, knowing they both kind of had themselves a little bit of a rocky midseason of the actual main era, where we look at the round robins, but still coming out at the end of the day and get themselves a dub to get to this kind of point in the tournament, especially in the upper bracket, knowing they had themselves some leniency now.
Yeah, Louisiana Tech Blue is an absolutely amazing team, and so is UF Orange. Hopefully, we're going to see a much better matchup here than last one. But honestly, by map so far, I'm pretty confident to say that this is going to be really interesting. Seeing the Lotus banned first again, I was shocked by that, but I guess I shouldn't be now. Haven being banned so soon, I think, is a little interesting. I think they were Louisiana Tech Blue was trying to get him on a little bit more of a funky map here. Maybe did some research beforehand, and everything else seemed about normal before Sunset being the last map. So we're going to have a really interesting match here. Maybe one of the first times we've seen Sunset here at the SEL, and definitely a weird one for a playoff best of one, mind you. So we're going to see what the comps are going to look like. I know there's not really a set in stone comp for Sunset quite yet. A few different agents that you're definitely going to want to see, maybe a Breach, maybe a Fade. I think probably an Omen as well, and maybe a Cypher somewhere in the mix, but we're just going to have to see at the end of the day. And honestly, we're looking forward to a really good match here.
And this will actually be the second time. Scott and I have seen Sunset here in the SEL before, surprisingly enough. So, I mean, this will be the second time. Still not too many teams have chosen it, so I think I've only casted it. This will be the third time.
All right.
But, I mean, just knowing what the map provides, I've seen it plays largely kind of like Ascent to a certain degree because of how small the map is. When horizontally, it's easy rotations, a lot of mid control, and it's a hop and a skip away before you get to another site. And you can look for control almost anywhere. Even then, I want to say every single match we've seen teams like to push in through spawn just because of how short the map is. We've seen attackers take a full route through the defender spawn to sometimes set up these sites, and it creates some of the most unique predicaments that we've seen in Valorant thus far. But knowing that, I mean, that's the map that we're going to be dealing with. As you mentioned, the composition is going to be a little bit more exciting in its own right, knowing that, I mean, teams are still trying things out. We haven't seen any tier one teams really play this competitively besides, I want to say, probably the Sentinels Invitational here last week. And that's the only real idea we've had to work off so far. And even then they were working with a substitute, it was more G2 that we saw actually have like a definitive comp that's going to be inside the league with their full roster that they're working with. But knowing that map, and it's still in those trial areas, I love to see these maps. We actually get to see comfort picks come out more than actual just definitive compositions, because still we do see something like Ascent where you have that exact mirror matchup that we saw in that last one. And I'm just like, if somebody feels a little bit more confident on something, it provides a lot of an element of surprise, because it just makes them think, okay, when you look at the B, when you look at the A, you're expecting, all right, a cage is going to be set up somewhere. We're going to have to see that utility. I would love to see maybe a Cypher just go ahead and have those different placements available to kind of shut these guys down, or maybe a Chamber just lining up, playing that jet position constantly towards B main. But that's all for Ascent. Here for Sunset, I will say the duelist that seems to have been the most optimal so far has been Raze. I feel that's the one that we can kind of predict the most of, consider that, I mean, Jet always been universally, but still Raze known us had this amplitude of angles that is on this map. I think she's just kind of a guaranteed pick to just go ahead and flush everything out, especially when you hear that spike going over towards A side. It's an easy just throw back there to just kind of lock things down, funnel a player out and say, look, that's the easiest spike hold in the game. We don't need you to really go ahead and secure that for free. So I'm with you. I'm excited to see what it's going to be provided in terms of agent compositions. I'm hoping these two teams, knowing that they're not going to be kind of the tried and true, looking for those kind of meta-defining picks and just trying to replicate it. I feel they're going to be a little more of an experimental stage where they're actually going to go for things that they feel better about rather than just what they see.
Absolutely. And I think Sunset provides for some really, really good fast sight takes and some really good action. So as a spectator, this should be really fun to watch. And as a player, it should not be fun to do. So we're going to see how everything works out here. But, maybe not expect those 1-for-1 picks and trades in the middle areas. Maybe get ready for some full team fights. I mean, it's kind of an exciting map for a reason, but also at the same time, if the momentum gets rolling in one team's direction, then it can all go downhill really fast, especially if you are on the attacking side. So we're just going to have to see how Sunset plays out. I believe in both of these teams, they will have an absolutely good run on this map. Lazy, the duelist for Louisiana Blue, should have an absolutely great Raze game if Raze is their desired agent. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Lazy was a player that we saw here recently on Lotus, just being an absolute menace. That was the most notable kind of Raze scenario I've seen out of Lazy specifically, and it was an absolute tear. And I think, quite frankly, in a scenario like this, I mean, Sunset just being a little bit more kind of short everywhere across the board compared to the likes of Lotus, it's going to be a little more of a playground. I mean, that guy was obviously doing everything it took to kind of set things up, but we hadn't seen that against the likes of Louisiana Tech. Florida, we've seen them kind of show themselves up. We've seen them kind of understand the hype. We've seen them because they obviously have their other team, which is just as good as them. And I mean, I'm sure their scrims prepare them for almost any scenario. But Louisiana Tech, I feel like they don't have the luxury of playing their own kind of sister team as much, which really puts them in a scenario where they have to scrim outside the school and better prepares them for what's really to come. So I think, quite frankly, looking at the kind of preparation phase that would go into a game like this, Louisiana Tech, I would say, probably had the upper hand. But in terms of like raw skill, it comes down to Florida, I'd say, a little bit. So that's going to be kind of one of those switch ups, whether or not on something like Ascent or Sunset, better yet, to kind of have that definitive reads and have those kind of understandings of what's going on because of how much of a wild card this map is. It really comes down to how the early stage is going to work. Who gets that early control? Who sets the pace of the game? Who kind of sets that tone to say, look, we're going to be going in end A over and over again, setting that muscle memory to kind of go ahead and put things up into a win and maybe take a different space in the map.
Yeah, and just watching Louisiana Tech play at Campus Clutch was an absolute pleasure. Jurassic is looking to be a really good initiator for them. Going to be great to allow Lazy to have really good entry rounds as the Rays, and especially on a map like Sunset, that combo can be pretty deadly here. So really looking forward to see what they do. I believe Louisiana Tech is attacking first, so we're going to see some interesting things come out here, and I would be wrong. Actually, Louisiana Tech is on defense first. So, this is about what you'd expect for Agent Select, although there's an ISO, which is, okay, it's a joke. That makes more sense. The Cypher, like I brought up earlier, looks like a breach as well, and then a deadlock covered, which I'm hoping is also a joke, because, looks like the Omen is going to be the desired controller here, and the Fade and the Breach looks like they're being hovered on the other side as well. Pretty interesting to see a Sky come out as well. Wonder if they're going to be doing a double flash initiator type deal here, and we'll see what Lazy decides to go as well. But I'm definitely expecting the Rays, and although they're not exact mirror matchups, they are definitely similar in a lot of ways. So this should be, again, a really exciting match, and I think that with this comp, I think Louisiana Tech actually might do a little bit better on their attack side with both flashes, but also the both flashes could be really deadly for their retakes. So we'll have to see what both teams offer here.
And quite frankly, I'm not too beat up about LA Tech on the Sky, just purely because of my bias towards her as an agent. I love what she brings to the game, but even more so, just kind of, you can see Jeeton with those color cards, probably a little bit of a comfort pick as well. So I would say, what doesn't Sky do, quite frankly? I mean, she really provides literally everything into the game, so you can't really beat her up too much. You can't say that she doesn't fit in any composition or any map just purely because of how much her utility provides on a use-to-use basis. Guiding Light is a little bit of an intel, but it's also just an actual flash. The Trailblazer serves as that kind of owl drone from the likes of Ahsoka, which we do see employed being a lot, and the regrowth just gives you way too much value in those early rounds on the pistols and the secondaries to kind of say that that's what sets the tone of the game, and that regrowths already can go ahead and throw a little bit of a wrench in any game plan when you see that damage numbers are called, and so long as it's not armor, it can be completely mitigated. So I think a really big stance here for LA Tech Blue. Florida Orange, I think what they're going to be going for, as you mentioned, will probably be more the tried and true kind of situation we'll see here for Sunset. Maybe ISO could be integrated somewhere to a certain degree whenever he comes in, but I mean, that's still a very much a large wild card. And absolutely. I think even then, just looking at this matchup alone, you could darn near call it a mirror matchup because Fade and Sky, speaking of that 1v1, that's what we have to put a lot of ideas on going into the game just because of what Fade's going to provide. But I think her utility is much easier to shut down, which will provide a little bit more difficulty.
Absolutely. The Fade ultimate could also be incredible on this attack side, especially on the A site where it covers a large majority of it. I also believe that Sky's ult on defense is very, very good for the intel. Especially, you have a Cypher, but, agents like Chamber that can hold really good mid control with a Sky ult in Chamber's absence, it definitely helps clear those angles so that you definitively know, hey, the team is exactly going at the site that I'm not at. And so it allows for a rotate, or the Fade ult allows you to just get on the site really easily, and even comboed with a Raise Nade or some Breach utility can be a really, really deadly thing to go up against. Honestly, on either site. And so I'm really excited to see what both of these teams do. And with that, I guess we're going to go ahead and get into the game.
Getting a look to see what these defaults look like right off the get-go, see if we see an outright hit onto either side, whether we want to be looking at kind of a little more sporadic, kind of taking attendance, figuring out what these defaults with the defense is looking like. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is just taking attendance in these early rounds. I always like to see teams, even if they don't win it that first round, I like to see them kind of spread themselves out. So, okay, whether these guys like to put themselves, can we at least get a peek, maybe not find a kill, or maybe not go ahead and execute off of anything because we want to go all together and just kind of get a layout of the land in these early stages. And quite frankly, you can already see the allocation towards B. That's going to be the easiest site to hit. It's going to be the quickest site to hit. That's where you see absolute 1v1, just kind of, I'd say, old Western standoffs just occur more times than not right there towards that gate. So I like to see those early entries and even then kind of see the game, the pedal be pushed to the metal to a certain degree, but it doesn't seem like that's the case so far. They're going to go ahead and understand once they try to execute on that site that Cypher more than likely is going to be set up on there the entire game, at least on the defensive side.
It looks like they're doing an A info play here, and the Breach is looking at him. He's able to get one, and now looks like they're probably going to try and activate towards mid here for the B split that they set up earlier in the round. Looks like, yeah, they're entirely vacating, and B players have spotted all the enemies by now. The Cypher util is still here, so it might be a little bit of a different entry, but Fade Dog gets the intro in, and it looks like they're still going to be stalled a little bit, and Lazy's actually able to get a kill on their counterpart, so that stalls things even more. Now it looks like Louisiana Tech are just going to hold their ground, and Florida's going to look to rotate. And with mid entirely open, they've got a lot of the map open for them. And it looks like the Sky's going to get some info onto A and not see anything. So they know, they kind of have an idea. It's a mid play here. You see the defensive smoke come out, and the door is closed, which is going to be the biggest factor. It's going to be the deciding factor of whether they decide to go B or if they decide to come up A through mid. So
left.
We'll have to see. It looks like Lazy is holding both the A and mid angle. And yep, here comes the commit. See what Lazy can do.
Once again, full swing around to the spawn. I mean, it's just so short of a map that you really can't blame for throwing the Cypher turret down there, just because right off the get-go, you want to cover every single gate, every single possible avenue to go ahead and find these sites. But once again, would be such an easy kind of plant to get down, but better yet, they have a little more of a secure plant to get down. It inevitably becomes the option, considering just what the setup was going into this. So G's going to go ahead and be sniffed out, called off, but even then still finds two in the meantime, so it makes it a little bit of an even 2v2 to get themselves back on the site. Sarko does have a ghost to work with, so this could be some easy shots to find yourself a headshot, knowing that even then Pixel only has one shot available, even probably to the chest at this point, considering with the ghost in hand. So Sarko to close it out. There goes Bolt, there goes Pixel, and there goes the first round for Louisiana Tech to get things started off, but it wasn't really to close things out. So still a big hold for them to really go ahead, find those exchanges, find those retakes to get those early kills, and the transfer, knowing that even then we saw that double kill come up from the Sky. It's going to be little impact plays like that in those early stages that really set you apart, and especially for Louisiana Tech to go ahead and get themselves an early way to get themselves a force buyout in this one.
Absolutely, yeah. And they got the bomb plant still, so they may look like to force anything here, but it doesn't seem to be that way, as it looks like classics all across the board, and looks like Louisiana Tech is probably just going to hold their ground here. It's the same default kind of they had last time, so they're leading to about 3 towards A, 2 towards B, and it looks like they may go for the info play as well, but it's a mid play. So Jeeton is forced back with the breach stun and is now smoked off, so we're going to see how things go here as the mid play commences. Looks like Raze might going to swing Sarko here, taking their sweet time. Oh, they see the fade arm, and there it is. Good kill on Zero, and a great follow-up on the Kogan. Yep. Still spotted by the Fade Eye and seized. Looks like they might get away. Sure enough, Sarko able to get out, but unfortunately Bolt is there with the trade. Jeeton with one more on mid, so now it's a 1v2 matchup with a Cypher on B site. And Bolt is tagged, and it looks like J. Crew is going to clean up the rest of that matchup. Nice and easily, only dropped one gun, and it being a Marshall. Looks like LA Tech Blue's got some pretty good momentum going through this full gun round.
And even more so, you get into the Marshall, so if a player feels more comfortable, you can just toss that thing over. Somebody else can play with whatever, but Sarko's just going to opt to be playing with that classic at a round like this. Even then, has some money to go for a full buy if you really do feel that confident, but I really can't blame Louisiana Tech. for just saying buy what you can, give a little bit of something to work with, and more so just kind of stay alive so your utilities there are impactful, because good God has that Cypher buff not been one of the most insane things I've seen. It was well deserved, don't get me wrong. I mean, the guy just didn't really feel all that insane just yet, but I mean, he really has found his place, I think, with these recent buffs, and he's in a good spot. So with that being considered, even then, the resources being put out on the map, better yet, players dropping in the meantime. Only took a couple seconds for a little bit of an exchange towards the middle of the map, a little bit of a scuffle, but I think it honestly comes down to LA Tech, and every single kill they find in this round is going to be a small win in regards to what the next one is, because Florida Orange, is being a full buy, they can't really lose that much, and they can't get picked off by this Marshall too much.
Absolutely. Sarko's already got himself a Vandal off his kill here, so this round is shaping up to be pretty interesting, and he managed to get away almost, but PXL here's the teleport. So now Sky starts to panic and rotate towards B, but little does Jeton know it's actually an A play. Gets blinded off by the Omen through the dog, spots the raise, and is able to get away. So now it's going to be a 3v4 retake here on the A site with only a few guns on the Louisiana Tech side, so things are about to get really interesting. If Jeton is squaring up for another CT play, we might be able to see another hero play come out from Jeton, and honestly, this round might be doable for Louisiana Tech.
I most definitely think so. I mean, considering you don't really have numbers advantage, that doesn't matter too much. You just need to knock down these players, and quite frankly, you knock down 2 more, I say you win this round. It just comes down to finding those opportunities. They've done exactly that. Already going ahead, finding 2, having that Vandal that was picked up towards market. You get one more player. It's a domino effect that's working wonders for LA Tech here on this retake. With only 1 player surviving, Pixel is now being snuffed out. You know that last player knows where he is. Jurassic just needs to make the swing, needs to find the kill, and if you don't, that's completely okay. You made that round extremely expensive for Florida Orange. But still, Pixel surmounting a 3K is going to have an ultimate next, or work with in the next one, I'd say more likely than not. Just find that ult orb, maybe get yourself a kill and work that for maybe the post plant. Doesn't really matter though, because still, you're not going to have the weapons to really back it up too much, considering that Florida has nearly nothing. This could be a stance for LA Tech to really just kind of nail themselves a couple extra rounds.
Absolutely. Great 3K from Pixel to keep the rest of their run alive. The momentum definitely could have swapped there, but now looks like they're still going into this with a full buy. I mean, they're still facing rifles, and this is shaping up to be a good matchup, but the B util has been broken, and there is an info play outside of B. Now, Cypher is waiting for it, and so is the rest of the attacking team, for that matter. Things are about to get real interesting here on this play, with Bolt about to take first contact. Jeton's able to get away. Lazy, not so much, and is going to get fragged by Bolt. So now this is shaping up to be a really interesting round.
Most definitely is. I mean, early on, we already see a pick coming up from Florida Orange. A really good exchange there, considering what they lost in the last round, but it may not matter too much. Already, once again, a second gun going away, and even then, you just got to see these sprays come out here from Jeton to finally inevitably be knocked down. So Spike will go off here. This is the first B plant we're witnessing in this entire game. We saw an attempted one during round 2, but that just didn't work out too well. This could be the first actual legitimate B placement being taken care of, but even more so, it may not really amount to much unless Sarko goes ahead and understands the stakes here by at least 2. So Florida Orange, even off the back of a round that they lost and made it pretty darn expensive, they still had enough to really give themselves an attempt in this one, and they made sure to bounce back with Fury. So sitting at a 2-2 on the board, you got to give them all the credit in the world for what they had to work with, and LA Tech, even they may not have much to work with in a round like this, besides the ultimates that are present in their hands. The Seekers are the only ones that can really have an impact, I feel, pretty early on with all the sheriffs to work with.
Absolutely, and it was a bit of a weird play last round. The Cypher, instead of going B, decided to set up on A and instead let his Raze and Sky push up. And honestly, I think that might have cost them the round, because Florida Orange was very aware. They steamrolled the 2 people holding B, and then the rest of the round was just gone. It was a 2v5. So now they've gone back to a more default. They've stacked 4 towards A. They're about to find this tripwire, and the Cypher is holding for them. Little do they know, it is a mid play that might come waterfalling straight out on the Cypher here, with very minimal guns as well. We're going to see how this play goes down, and it looks like they are still looking towards that B site. They're going to smoke off the CT angle and just walk straight through the market area, right into the Cypher of J. Crew. But J. Crew only be able to do so much, and the flanks already come through. Lazy is, he's able to get one. Not much else. There we go, a second one. Now this round's become a lot easier. 3 from Lazy. Oh my, what a spam. J. Crew goes down. So now the B play has come through, but the info is there. Now they're going to start looking towards planning for CT. Lazy's going to peek, and Pixel will clear Lazy. And now it's getting a little interesting on the B side. Jurassic gets flashed off. Both initiators left in this in a 2v2 retake, and they escaped to CT. Now this has become a lot harder.
use nearly every single piece of utility just to look for an escape. So really nothing here for the post plan. It just comes down to the likes of Pixel being able to hold that thing out. But you can tell that the shots are on. The players are there. You've seen the 1x1 take effect. And you've seen a round 1, an eco round coming out here successfully for LA Tech Blue. Oh, let's give all the credit here to Lazy for that one, considering finding that 3 initial kills, working out for that, and then just being in the perfect position there towards market for a retake where every single player, all 3 better yet, coincidentally enough, can pick up their own little upgrade and make sure to make that round doable. The Seeker's also perfect there, knowing that you've got enough players to really allocate. Just go ahead and get the read on where they are exactly, and just make that push necessary. So, I mean, a huge one here for LA Tech, not only just because 3Ps, obviously you win yourself another round, but better yet, for the expense that was made for it. And when that swap up comes into play there, Florida Orange shouldn't really have much to work with here. So 4 ultimates, that's a pretty good stance for them, but keep in mind, you're not going to pop those things unless you think you really have the upper hand, just like we saw with that last round of the Seekers.
Good utility from Louisiana here, and it's going to be capitalized on. Great one way from the Omen. Lazy's able to kill their counterpart yet again, and now looks like Florida's changed up their pace a little bit. You know, they've recognized that any space given to Louisiana Tech, they're going to want to take back eventually. And Lazy was really able to capitalize on that. And so now maybe some tactics changes for Florida Orange here in this round, especially, and really just making sure that the lurks are not coming through. And that Cypher, again, is on the A site. So they've swapped things up again. Once they do a B play, they just swap Cypher off to the opposite site, and they just let him take control as the rest of Florida Orange has to retake the entire map. Cypher's still holding the B main area, but looks like Breach and Omen are waiting for the mid play here, and so is Lazy, rotating also back to hold a crossfire with Omen. Looks like they might want to get active here, and the Fade Util comes through, does not spot anyone, and great shot from Lazy. It looks like they're going to continue for more. Race nade, almost good for Cypher, and the Fade is trapped, flashed. Bolt still manages to kill Lazy, but Sparkle will get the trade. Cypher, Pixel is now at top mid. He's got the spike, and his Omen is bottom mid, but he's in a tough spot right now, able to cage himself across. Continue to get spammed. Great flash from Jeton, and wow, he is blind. Able to get the kill on Pixel. Last is Kogan versus 4. We're going to have to see how he can do, but the spike is gone top mid. He's got his ultimate, so he might look to try and secure the round with his ultimate and lurk up towards A here, but little does he know that Cypher hasn't been spotted yet, and actually, it's just going to turn into a save. Got to save all the stuff he can for this next round because it is going to be an uphill battle from here.
Can't blame the guy. You're in a 1v4 from the shadows. I just can't stand how it's only used as that piece of ultimate to pick up the spike in case it goes stray. So, I mean, honestly, when you're in the situation where you're the only one who can really pick it up, can't blame the guy for just going ahead, folding his hand and saying, let's go into the next one. And we have at least a Vandal to work with. Knowing that last round wasn't too hot for Florida Orange, knowing they weren't working with too much even in a round like this, or once again, not really having too much to play with. It comes down to, once again, LA Tech, they're going to find themselves probably a definitive round, a very strong one, to where you just see that Florida Orange is waiting for the opportunity where they can funnel all these ultimates into a round with the back of their guns and see that they can find themselves a successful retake, or at least just an immediate win of a round is what I would say. So, I mean, that's a lot to ask for, but it really comes down to really how they pace themselves and how they can execute it, because they haven't hit A spot in a while, so even they going ahead and using that nightmare, which is actually kind of insane, I'd say. You can let them know you're pushing the A site. Nobody really got touched from how far they were playing back. An immediate rotation is going ahead and being called in. The Rolling Thunder as a secondary option. It's insane to see how much they're funneling into the site, but yet they're still not touching it. I'm at a loss of words, because purely as a deficit for that, as a consequence of your actions, every player just gets knocked down off the back of 2 ultimates that just seemingly shut you off. Owen said he's going to be the way of the game here for the likes of LA Tech Blue, looking for themselves a little bit more of a stance, knowing they've already definitively kind of won this last round out. Even then, with all the ultimates they were lost, I mean, honestly, that was just a cherry on top, quite frankly. They already expected the round win for themselves, but there's a lot more here that they have to really start keeping an eye on, because Florida Orange, after those two ultimates, I'm still just at a loss of what really was going through the minds. I can understand overwhelm your opposition, give them no real chance, but even then with the sparsity of that, Nightmare and the Rolling Thunder back-to-back, it was a collective effort. It was just kind of spread out, saying, okay, they're going to back up, they're going to re-enter, they're going to back up, and quite frankly, they just never really did any of that. They stayed back, and they were unaffected the entire time. But LA Tech Blue, because of that, I mean, you saw just a definitive one, and they're going to work with that once again. You see the full rifles coming underway in a round like this, so you know that obviously the ultimates are going to be a consideration to kind of look for some compensation, maybe that showstopper for a retake, maybe with neural theft off of the single pick to see where the entry is coming from. But there's still so much that kind of has a question mark present for it that honestly, the push that comes out already definitively lets you know what's going to be happening. A market push comes out, no real players expose themselves towards main, and with Sarko finding so much results there towards market, that quite frankly, you turn your attention, you shut the guys down, and you tell them, look, just try for the next one, because this may look like a save unless one of us overextend.
30 seconds
I
left.
wouldn't blame LA Tech that they just didn't want to push, because it feels like every run is definitively insane. So already looking at what's going to happen here, the save isn't going to be too much of an actual consideration. It really more so kind of comes down to the B site and how you see these
10
players just
seconds
kind of
left.
wait themselves out. But with 7 seconds, it's either going to be a last second ditch effort or it's just going to be a save. And quite frankly, with 3 seconds on the clock, they're not pushing. They were just waiting to see if anybody would overextend themselves so you could look to maybe see a shot or not. But already there, 3 ultimates, 4 ultimates, going ahead, being ready for the next one. The Seeker's not really making too much of an impact, considering you had that narrow stuff there. Kind of go ahead and trade off between the two, so you always have some relative sense of information here from the attackers. I feel like LA Tech Blue are really just going to be running through this thing. They're going to be looking good for it, and I think, quite frankly, better yet, off the top of that, I think, honestly, now sitting at 6 and guaranteeing themselves an even half no matter what, every round after this just kind of being a cherry on top, giving themselves a further lead. This just becomes their game now. Because they hit that threshold first, this game is now set at their pace, and they're the ones who now set the tone for the rest of the match.
Absolutely, and the utility from J. Crew's Cypher has been absolutely instrumental in these past 2 rounds, really slowing down Florida Orange's offense. And oh, great pick from Lazy. Great flash from Jurassic as well. And this is already a down round. You know, it's already an eco, so there goes their one ultimate as well, the one they really wanted to enter the site, and it's gone. So now they have to explore other options. Thankfully, their breach has gotten some really good information. He's going to spawn at the back B here, and oh, there, he sees the Cypher. So now you got to wonder, do they go in, or do they face Jaker's utility? And it looks like they will face it instead. Cage goes up, and they have just been stalled. Great smoke from the Omen as well, and there they go. They're committing out.
Cage triggered.
Yeah, going ahead, pushing right through, knowing all the utilities been funneled there by the Cypher. Nothing else is really there present to stop you, so this could be the best attempt that they really have so far. But problem is they've lost 2 players in the meantime. As J. Crew holding on to the site, can't do too much off the back of that. And is Alpha Pure closing up shop with at least a couple more kills off the back of it. But keep in mind, they don't have too much else to work with. You get a Rolling Thunder if you really want to go for that re-entry, a showstopper. But I wouldn't blame LA Tech if they just say, let's just shoot the guys, because you know how much we got to work with? Plenty, but they still don't care. Shutting the guys down, insult to injury, salt in the wound, as another round is now successfully grabbed by them to get themselves a guaranteed lead.
Yep, great retake there. They knew exactly the game plan going into it. They took their time. And even though they had a few guns, they were really low health, and it just went south super fast for him yet again. So we're going to see a rifle round. This is the time for the momentum to shift for Florida Orange. This is a key round for them. If they do not manage to get it, this map could go really on the wayside really fast. So either a timeout or a good round can really set the momentum back in their favor, and we can see anything other than what's shaping up to be a 10-2 half at this point. I mean, the LA Tech Blue has looked incredibly dominant over the series, and especially with the operator in play now, they're not going to expect it aside from the last round. They don't know where they play, and so now they're just resorting back to the slow info plays. No activation from either team. They're just taking space where they can. It looks like, again, they have taken mid, so a bit of an interesting play going on here, and the smoke's going to go out. So again, you're going right into the Cypher again. You hear the camera. The players are outside market, so what are they going to do? They spotted the operator and the Cypher, so at this point, you got to wonder, are they going to rotate? Are they going to activate up mid? And Louisiana Tech Blue has still placed their players in a really effective way to where they will stall this play, and it looks like the mid play is going to come out after all.
The Tripwire is going to give an idea of the mid play, but you already have Alpha kind of sitting there towards the back, or better yet, your defensive breach looking to kind of hold things down and make sure that that's going to be accounted for. But the double down is a little bit of an interesting play, all things considered, because you know that you only have one player on that A side, but it's Jeeton. He's able to get two, so you're happy with that result, saying, look, he did his own job. He stalled him for a second, and now they're extremely hesitant to even go for this entry. But with the quick little execution, a little trade-off there from Pixel, and better yet, another one, you're keeping these numbers equal. A narrow theft from both sides, so whoever really kind of gives in first is going to be Florida Orange with that spike going down. They just want to have an idea of where these guys are playing from, and better yet, the Rolling Thunder to work off on the back of that plan. But Jake finds the shot onto one because the 2v1. Alpha Pure's going to be using that to funnel these players out and see if an aftershock could result in a kill, but no real double down, no real holding going on here. So you see the 1x1 trades coming out. Lazy looking for the shot, just can't find it. This is now a patience game. Lazy wants to pick up a Vandal, I'm sure, or a Phantom, any rifle that's around the map, and Alpha Pure's just waiting for a tap down to go off. But even then, with the dodge coming through, the shots being made, Florida Orange find themselves at least one more.
Yeah, that was a great trade from Alpha Pure onto Jurassic, who killed the Spike Planner and brought it into a 2v2, and I don't think he would actually activate his ultimate a little earlier there, but it turns out, you know, I'm the caster, he's the player, and he saved it and actually managed to bring that round back around, and like I was saying, you know, now there's this momentum shift. You know, Louisiana Tech Blue still has great money. They have full utility, they have full shield and everything like that, and now it's looking to be a little better for the Florida Orange side as well, but their mental might be a little better, and it looks like they're shaping up to do another mid play here, which has worked for these past few rounds, and I guess we're going to see what happens, even though Louisiana Tech Blue is ready for it.
I mean, they feel like they've been ready every single round, quite frankly. I mean, just seeing the way they play these games, every single round that's happened so far, there hasn't been a definitive win coming out from Florida Orange. I would say if it comes down to the clutches for the most part, but this could be the time to really do it, considering they found the 2 additional picks, but even then, immediately traded off towards the middle of the map with the help of Jeeton, who's just consistently beginning these strands of kills on a round-to-round base, whether it be over towards A side, middle of the map. This guy is literally present everywhere, and as I mentioned earlier, I think it just comes down to the Sky comfort pick. You know what utility you have in your hands, you know what kind of plays you can make, what plays you can't, so you're just working with that and praying you find yourself something, and good God, have you carried your weight in gold so far. So consider now Florida Orange looking for an entry on towards that B side. They do have that point going down. They've allocated a showstopper to it in the meantime. So it comes into the Nightfall next. Is that going to be really fun for these players? You don't know what's going to be happening there, but still, it does inevitably come out. You know the decay's in play here, and you know that you now have these players trailed. Who's over there in spawn? Well, quite frankly, it's Jeeton. That's the gamble that you're taking. Which player are you chasing? And if you know it's Jeeton, that's the one you want to avoid, if anything, because there's a defuse going off. Pixel looking to go ahead and play that defense, but that's just not going to happen as another successful round comes out for LA Tech Blue.
Yeah, they just overextended way too big, Florida Orange did. I mean, they had 2 people in spawn. They didn't even care about the flank, and all of a sudden they come through market, and they're just defusing. I mean, I don't know where Zero was. He had a classic in CT spawn, about all you could really do there, but the other two, I mean, they had decent guns. They could have shut it down, and instead, I think they overextended a little too much on the Fatal, got lost in it, and they were just able to walk their way on site and get away with that. That was definitely an interesting retake and an even more interesting post plant from the side of Florida Orange. So last round here, let's see what both can do. There are no ultimates in play quite yet, although there are probably some that are getting close. Now the Cypher has rotated to A here, so this, again, you know, they haven't wanted to do the B push, and they've made that clear. So now the Rays in the sky have taken the space at B. Cypher's about to lurk back into them, so they know that this is likely a mid-play. Jurassic's going to start dumping utility to prevent it, and it looks like Sarko is done in. Alpha Pure absolutely carrying Florida Orange right now, and now the situation gets a little more interesting as they start to funnel in the wrong side of B. Lazy knows there's a lurk outside, so I'm guessing that the call has been made to start rotating over towards the B side, and that there is a lurk, though he hasn't gotten much done yet. Wolf's gonna get the plant down, and Lazy's gonna miss again! Oh no! There it is! Lazy's able to get Pixel. All I have to do is mention it. The Alpha Pure here, yep, good for Jurassic. Positioning is great. Jeeton also able to get one. And now it's a 3v1 of the CT spawn. J-Crew is good for one, but Volt will trade him out. Now it's a 2v2. The Sky has the info of where they are, so now Lazy's gonna maybe try and half this, but the stun will come out. Jeeton gets a little closer to spawn here, and they're still just anchoring towards the market side. Oh, big flash come in, but Lazy's got the utility. Gonna try and half it. Alpha Pure is fighting Jeeton. Jeeton will trade.
Enemy remaining.
This is big. It's still halved. Oh, may not have the time, and it doesn't look like it. Great try for Jeeton there. Great 3-parry, but unfortunately just not able to pull it off.
I knew he was going to win that fight. I mean, it's just so... It's cheat. It's cheat. This is the guy we can rely on to at least find the kills we need today. Was just kind of behind Sarko by one in that last round. Once again, able to find 3 within the course of a round. This guy's done it so much that it really just comes down to playing time with him. Because if you match up against a guy, that was the best course of action you could have taken there, quite frankly, from Florida Orange. Look for the matchup, make sure a player gets on the defuse, and you're saying, okay, you're leaving us to only face Jeeton. That's... Sure, that one guy can kill us both, but he can't check both angles, quite frankly. And that's what it comes down to. Working on the time, getting a fast enough swing where you can make sure to lock that thing out. And just run away at a certain degree where you can just make sure that time works into your favor. But now being on the opposing side of the map in an 8-4 stance, I mean, this is where, once again, LA Tech, they were kind of setting the tone on just the defense. So better yet, it kind of could be a testament to saying, good God, what could they do on the attacking side, better yet?
Yeah, and it looks like they're going for a little bit of a different switch up compared to Florida Orange. They're getting some mid info, but it looks like they're going to try and end A here, especially because they've probably predicted the Cypher correctly being at B. They've got all the space cleared, so Sarko's going to clear this, and it has been confirmed. Jeeton's got to hold his own here, and it does, and they are actually only going to trade blows. No kills traded out, which is definitely interesting to see, especially with the commitment of utility.
There.
So now the info is that they're A. Looks like the Cypher from Orange has pushed up here. They're going to find the flank utility, and it looks like the Sky's going to get into a scuffle with Pixel, and Pixel will come out on top.
B.
That's the spike. Now the rotation may be called from A here, and it's an info play through market, and the Fade will be staring at him along with some of the Cypher.
That's also your Jeeton down already. That's your hero player that can really turn it up in terms of any course of the match, but it may not matter too much considering the health pool of so many Florida Orange players. They've really gone ahead and take a dip. They don't have the regrowth to work with in the first place because they didn't opt for that agent selection, and it just comes into 3 players at LA Tech with blue. All at least 2 out of 3 with a whole full health pool, but even then with Ghost in hand, you can find a headshot anywhere and make sure to open up this game wide. So already one more kill went ahead in exchange here for the likes of Zero, able to go ahead and close out at least one, but even then you're looking at the retake, it has to occur eventually because time is ticking and you need to press the pedal. Already Jurassic once again looking for one, playing the timer here. Sarko just holding a close angle on that smoke for an easy 2K to go ahead and close up shop once more for LA Tech to get themselves not only a 9th, but more than likely a 10th with the force coming up.
Yeah, that was a great round from them. It went from bad to all right. Lazy getting a good trade there on the mid player, and great util from Jurassic actually stalling the CT play out. And what I thought was interesting for Florida Orange is they just grouped up everyone right outside this CT area of B. They didn't even want to take any space while the bomb was being planted, though there were so many low players on the LA Tech blue side. So a little bit slow of a retake, and I think if they picked up the pace a little bit, they would have caught LA Tech blue off guard. Instead, now they're on pistols. Now, Louisiana Tech has the advantage again in a pistol round, and looks like the info play is going to come out. Sarko's good for one here, surely, and he doesn't see him, and they still don't see him.
Saw your leg!
Oh, there it is. Sarko manages to clean him up, and Alpha Pure is going to try and trade his friend. Just kidding. He's going to walk back. And the Fade is getting some information on mid here. They know it's a B play, and there's Jurassic for kill on 0. And there goes the B. Lazy is already in market. They've got the info. There's no one mid. Although the Battle of the Cypher, let's see what happens. Pixel's been pretty good this series. Let's see if he can pick up a kill on J. Crew here. Oh, the timing again has not worked out.
You don't hear the quote either.
Oh,
eventually gets an idea.
There
This is one of the most
Last player standing.
It is.
God, there's so many predicaments where just players are going ahead getting a peek on each other but not able to find those kills, but it may not matter too much considering the kind of efforts and the kind of gunnery you have to work with. I mean, one player being dropped, that's expected here from LA Tech. They found themselves 2 free kills just based off timing alone, and considering the kind of rifling they were all working with and the kind of gun that you dropped, you couldn't care less because a round like this, they have an insurmountable setup, I would say, considering this feels like almost to a certain degree a full buy round. Obviously, we're not looking at Vandals and Phantoms, but I mean, a Bulldog, if you know what you're doing with it, it feels just as good.
Yeah, I mean, only dropping one gun this round is going to be a massive issue here. I mean, Jeeton and Lazy both on rifles, as well as JQ and Jurassic on Bulldogs, which can definitely carry their weight, especially as they go towards the A side. However, they are going into a stack here. Without the Cypher util, it's definitely doable, but looks like some good play is going to come up here. Zero's looking. Wow, Jeeton with a great one. And Kogan's only able to get 1. Probably should have gotten 2, but it's all right. He's able to trade out, and they've got an A defense now prepped. And it looks like Louisiana Tech is going to look to walk away and try and prod at mid a little bit. Looks like Bolt is expecting it, and wow, is able to kill Jean. What a frag. And Pixel's kind of getting the idea, and he's going to back off towards the CT side and go play with his fade just in case something happens. I mean, this is a 4v3, so we're going to look at definitely some team play coming from the side of Louisiana Tech. They're going to push somewhere, whether it be through mid or through B. I'm not sure if they're going to retry A, but it looks like they're working their way there again into 2 players, Breach and Omen as well. So some definitely hard hitters, especially considering Alpha Pure is here, and they've still got utility. Just going to walk back into it, and Jurassic's good for both. Wow, great play from Jurassic. That just flung around back into winnable territory for Louisiana Tech, and they're going to get a good plant down because those B players are far away. They've gotten the setup ready, and they are expecting CT. Looks like Lazy's going to call the bluff, and peek right into Pixel, who will trade, but Jake is good for 1. Bolt, not good for it. Great round for Jurassic, especially for the entry onto A, and I think this game might be over.
I mean, we mentioned it earlier, talking about the kind of pacing when it comes out of the halves. Already, I mean, LA Tech kind of setting that tone just at the start of the game by winning the pistol round. Everything afterwards just felt like they were kind of playing from control. And knowing that now at a position like this where they're in the attacking side, they can actually set that tone, set that pace, and literally control the game by their own rules. But it's just kind of expected that they do find that swap up, that they go for the 3-0 and they just kind of set Florida Orange back a hand. And it was off the back of even then going for that kind of awkward force where you're over investing, but you're kind of believing your team and you make sure to get the job done. So good on them to have that confidence to get that execution and better yet kind of bring that round back from the dust. Obviously, we saw that double kill from the Breach that could really set the tone there and give 2 more weapons over to really make sure that everybody has the guns to work with. But Kogan, what a extension from you, my boy. Able to go ahead and at least get one off the back of that. And Sarko just going for a spray. Can't find the trade.
Well, I mean, it happens to everybody, right? And as much as you would like that trade, this is a round where it may not be needed because, I mean, this is a low investment round from Florida Orange. Sure, you have the man advantage, but now Kogan is one of the only people on this A site, and with Jean killing Alpha Pure, their best player, I mean, I guess we're going to see what happens with Kogan. He is still waiting in main, but now they know he's there off that Sky Flash, and the Omen is ready for this. Oh, no, Sarko's not ready. Kogan's actually able to get one there and try and run away. He's going to hit the Cypher Crypto. Yep, there it is. So they know he's trying to get away. This has turned into a 3v4, a really awkward one at that. Good Cypher ult here to get the information on what's going to happen. Yep. And they're just going to play the patient game at this point. And there goes the enemy Cypher ult. Looking a little more dangerous. Jeeton with some good utility to find out where they are. Lazy's going to swing the mid angle. Jeeton with a great wallbang. Bolt's going to start using some mutual on backside to get Lazy and J-Crew out of there, but it didn't get either of them. So they're nice and safe. J-Crew swings in at the perfect time. Lazy, Bolt still alive on the site. Pixel, good for 1. Let's see if he can get more. Lazy, 2v1. And Lazy's good for 1. Might be able to delay for the last.
Finger on the rosy.
Yeah, there you go. Bolt will have no time. That is another round for Louisiana Tech Blue. Man, another one with a deficit as well. I cannot believe what I'm seeing.
I mean, considering that even off the back of that round, considering that Florida Orange, I mean, you could have said that was a win for the most part, but even then, you robbed all the guns out, but knowing what LA Tech has found, and they even then got somewhat of an eco out of you, considering they were able to upgrade those guns, you're literally just exchanging blows at the cost of rounds at this point, and you're just hemorrhaging. So I can't blame Florida Orange for kind of going for this timeout, considering how it's working, but it feels a little bit too late to kind of really accomplish something off the back of it. They're more than likely to prove me wrong, but I mean, it's an 8-round deficit, and LA Tech just really set the tone there. Florida Orange thinking, we don't have really too much of a buy this round. This is our last real buy. It's our last real round. You can't blame them for kind of going for this, but even then off the investment of the neural theft in that last round, you just don't have much to work with here. You don't have much to really build in a round like this. So it is whatever you see at the top of your screen and whatever you see in each player's hands, that's quite frankly all you're going to have for the entirety of this round. I mean, what LA Tech sitting up with a Rolling Thunder, the Seekers as well. That's enough to go ahead and set a difference in itself. But looking at the fragability of what we've seen Jeeton and Sarko do in this game, that's just kind of the last nail in the coffin.
Absolutely, and Louisiana Tech's looking to end this game here. They've got the ultimates to do it. They've got the economy. Florida Orange should have the economy for this round as well, but I think it might be a little uglier seeing Cypher was towards A, and he's going to stay there. They might stack a lot of people towards B, but turns out the Florida Orange economy is actually really not that good. They're going to be playing straight into some lower guns here, especially with ultimates, and I think this is Louisiana Tech's last round here. J. Crew on a good lurk for information. Great play here from Orange to get up and get the space on B, which is where Louisiana Tech wanted to go. So now they may have to consider other options, even though, you know, they are on low guns. So I think we're just going to see a little bit of a lurk play as they feel out the rest of the map, and Louisiana Tech is just going to barrel into the site whenever they choose, and this round is on their terms.
They use the smoke in the net to kind of give themselves a little bit of leeway to find some space for these judges to start to excel, these Spectres to find these close quarter ballistic combat areas. But quite frankly, I mean, even then, you can tell just seeing that utility being funneled in. And LA Tech being very aware of the financial circumstances of these guys, so they're not just going to give in for it. If they see too many players, you have a rolling thunder, keep in mind. I know darn well they really want to go ahead and pop that thing off. But speaking of getting popped, there goes Jeet, your top frag of the game so far. That star player that we've seen, but even then, there's not too much you really have to worry about, considering that, sure, your guy dropped, but at what cost? He's gotten damage somewhere. You can guarantee he's done something. And even then more so that regardless, there's going to be not enough guns dropped to really have too much of an effect off the back of it. So in a 3v2 scenario, Spike being down, Rolling Thunder still fully available. You're just waiting for that tap to go off, and you're just looking to press the next button.
Looks like Louisiana Tech might fall folly to exactly what Florida Orange did, except now the util's out. Now they know where both players are, and there it is, folks. That is the end of the game. Just ends just as quick as it started, and wow, another pretty defeating matchup for this SEL game, and a little bit different than I think we were expecting it to go, and just wow.
Definitely much further, I would say, knowing these two teams again of their caliber and what they've worked with. I've seen LA Tech. I've seen what they can do with the Rays and Lazy obviously showing up, and then Jeeton obviously just kind of taking the limelight this week. Zarko, got to give credit to the guy. Had that title for a while, was definitely able to hold his own in those earlier rounds to kind of set everything up for the rest of the game. So, I mean, you got to give the testament to him. But once you were kind of up there, once you were just, you know, the staircase has already been climbed, and you're just kind of chilling at the midway point, knowing you have a definitive lead over your opponents, it was Gene who was just kind of continuing to kick them on down and just make sure they stay back there. And that's really what it came down to, not giving them the chance to catch up. And that's what results in a deficit like that. We've seen 8 rounds in a game and a 13-5, and knowing that even then more so you're looking for these kinds of strands around. You're looking for a wake-up moment. And the fact that now the opponent who started on the defensive side had themselves a lead on the defense, and now they're saying this is our game. We already had that confidence established. We can just kind of absolutely hammer it in on this attacking side. It's just a little bit too much to really go ahead and bounce back from.
Yeah, and the captain of Louisiana Tech Blue, Jurassic, had an absolutely great impact on especially that defensive half. Yep. Florida Orange did not get a singular offensive round, defensive round, and that just really shows to testament that Louisiana Tech Blue was just ready to end it there. 8-4 half, still a little bit to work with, but as was evident in that matchup, they did not capitalize off it as much as you would have expected, especially with the breaches impact from Florida Orange on that attack side. He was able to single-handedly win a lot of those rounds for Florida Orange, and he wasn't there really on the defensive half. So I kind of wonder if those really pop-off moments that they were expecting from some of their players just didn't happen, and Louisiana Tech Blue just had the upper hand the entire time. I mean, we saw great pop-offs from Lazy, from Jurassic, and from, of course, Jeeton, their best player at the moment, and even some great defensive holds from J. Crew. I mean, overall, Louisiana Tech was just a very solid team on this map, and I'm wondering if it was their pick, because it definitely looked like it. I'm wondering if Florida Orange let the sunset slide just to have a little bit of a fun matchup towards the end of the season, but, I mean, Louisiana Tech dominant on this matchup.
Well, don't worry about that too much. You'll be able to have a chance to ask those questions to Louisiana Tech players, or at least one of them, because right after this break, we'll be right back with one of the Louisiana Tech players to reflect on this matchup and figure out what went right and how do you prevent from so much not going wrong. So we'll catch you then with a player. We'll figure all that out. Welcome back, everybody, here to the interview. We're going to get things underway. We get the likes of J. Crew here this time around. So the Cypher player that you saw in that last matchup in a 13-4 fashion, going ahead and take it over to the likes of UF Orange. I'm going to go ahead and get things started off, obviously, here for you, J. Crew. How do you feel after a win like that?
I'm feeling great, man. That was a really good game. We came in with a plan, and we executed perfectly. Everything about that game pretty much went exactly how we planned it.
Yeah, I mean, you guys obviously seem like y'all had a little bit of an idea because Sunset doesn't feel like too much of an actual learning map at the end of the day. I mean, obviously it has a different flow. It feels extremely small, but it feels like if you have a really good sense of when it comes around to something like Ascent, maybe, that you can kind of get a good idea of how Sunset's going to work and really kind of bring that into practice. Because we've seen more teams now kind of liking to scrim this one because it doesn't seem insane like Fracture or Icebox or something kind of in that rotation. So do you guys feel like Sunset could be a little bit of a hot note for yourselves going forward and that we could possibly see it more coming through the rest of the playoffs?
100%. When the map came out, our IGL Jurassic, he was really focused on trying to make this like our next map. It's a new map. It's something that a lot of teams are not experienced with, or they're not really scrimming it that much, and it can really take a lot of teams off guard. And I think we have a really solid setup on this map. I think we're very aware of what we're doing.
Yeah, each one of those Louisiana Tech players had incredible impact throughout the entire map. It was an absolutely riveting series to watch y'all play. And what's it like to play at this Louisiana Tech team where everyone on it is just really a heavy hitter overall?
Man, my first year here, I was on the B team, and the chemistry was not like this at all. This A team is so good. I love all of them. They're amazing players, all individually, and we work great together. I mean, as every team does, we all have our issues, but we work through them as a team, and we always come out stronger because of it. And I just love these guys.
Man, that's great to hear, and just so awesome to watch this as well. Really excited for you guys to move on in the bracket as well. Do you think you have what it takes to make it all the way?
100%. 100%. I think that this team is good enough that we can win every tournament. I promise.
Hey, that's good to hear.
I think so. I mean, honestly, looking at you guys obviously facing Niner Esports next week, I'm going to be super stoked to watch that one, or better yet, cast over it. Because I think, honestly, you guys are probably watching the match to a certain degree. Probably a little bit kind of shocked about that result that happened with Georgia Tech. I mean, a 13-1 isn't really what we're expecting out of it. I'm sure you guys aren't expecting it either. So hopefully y'all should provide a little bit of an actual kind of better setup for that matchup overall and kind of be ready for what's to come. But even then more so kind of looking in the further degree of the season and kind of what's to happen there. You guys obviously think you can go all the way, but even then better yet, do you think, are you going to, when you get around to that point, the grand finals actually being a legitimate series, do you think that when it comes down to that best of three, do you believe that, say, if it is against the likes of Niner Esports, because we're going to expect that kind of from next week, a little bit of taste of what's to come, do you think that you're going to bring at least all the way to a map 3, or do you think that both of you guys are going to kind of at least duke it out to a certain extent where you see maybe a 2-1 possibly come out?
I think our team is really good against rematches. We lose a lot of that game against Georgia Tech was really bad. We also were having some role issues at that time, but we've quelled those, we fixed those, and we lose a lot of game ones against teams, and then we just stomp them in the rematch. Like, that's just how it's been. And I promise that we're going to do that with Niners, and then I can see us 100% winning 2-1 in the finals, grand finals.
Well, good on y'all. I think you guys got what it takes to a certain degree. I mean, seeing that every one of y'all have a lot more consistent star players, I would say. I mean, looking at Sarko today, didn't really see him turn it too much here recently, but Jeeton's been a constant factor here inside the entirety of the season. Same exact thing with Lazy. Even they didn't have really the best day in the world here today, as we saw in Lotus recently, where that's kind of the performance I remember specifically. But all things considered, I think you'll have what it takes as well. So it's going to be a joy to watch y'all next week. It's a joy just kind of talk to y'all in the current minutes, but better yet, do you have any shout outs for your team? Obviously, you love them, you know them, but do you kind of want to give a little bit more attention to anybody specifically, or just once again give the group love?
Honestly, I wish I could give shout outs to everybody, but for one, I'll just say, Kai, you're fucking insane.
Oh, well, there you go. And even then, with that being said, I want to thank you, J. Crew, for showing up, giving your love to the rest of the team, and letting us have a chance to talk to you. With all that being said and done, we got to close things out for the night. So things will return. Keep in mind, next week, Rocket League on Wednesday. Once again, Valorant on Thursday. We're going to keep things chugging along. We're not changing anything up because we got a heck of a lot more games ahead of us. But for tonight, at least, we're closing things off with the 2 little shorter series, I would say, regardless. But it's all said and done, and we'll catch you then with the next one.